Joining us is Lisa Schickerling, who is a member of the Portfolio Committee on Police from the Democratic Alliance. Lisa, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. It seems some very minimal, but some headway being made when it comes to crime statistics and the advent of murder.
Good evening, Masa, and good evening to all the viewers out there. Yes, I mean, we do welcome the fact that there's a little bit of a decrease, but in reality, South Africans are not measuring safety by percentages. They're measuring it to see whether they survive through the day or not. I mean, we see shifts in the murder rate, and that's wonderful, and we would like it to see a drop in the murder rate. But 6,351 people are still murdered in just 3 months. That's 71 people every single day in our country. And this is not progress. This is not the progress that our communities need. People are living in fear.
Yeah, and as you're saying, Lisa, you know, to reconcile statistics and lived experience sometimes are quite the oxymoron as well. But also, should we take some solace in the fact that this decline is quite consistent since 2023?
Yes, I think we should. I mean, we obviously have to take note of it. I think that there are some measures that the SAPS has put in place and that operations like Chanela do help. But the problem is, with operations like Chanela, a high amount of people are arrested. The problem is that the convictions don't follow. So the perpetrators are just out on the street again. And we need conviction-driven policing in South Africa because without that, nothing is going to change. We need prosecution-led investigations from the start. We need dockets that are properly prepared. We need proper functioning forensic labs and DNA systems. And we obviously need the ability to link illegal firearms to multiple crimes across the country.
To that point of conviction-driven policing that's needed in South Africa, would you extend that, Lisa, to conviction-driven crime stats as well? So when we look at the number of people who have been murdered in our country, then we also know how many of those murderers have been convicted, how many of those murderers have faced the court of law, where those investigations went.
Yes, definitely. We definitely need to include that in the statistics that we get given, because it looks like crime is going down, and there is, we can't say it's not. There is definitely an improvement. But as we've said, if we don't know how many actually lead to convictions, it doesn't make any difference because we have repeat offenders. We have firearms that are just put back into the system again. They are either stolen from the police stations or they just get somehow go back into the hands of the criminals. And these are the things that we have to combat. We have to make sure that we make South Africa safer. And another problem we're sitting with is, while we sit with the crime statistics, many crimes are underreported. Rape is vastly underreported. Contact crime is vastly underreported. Even normal theft is underreported because most of the times there's no conviction. So people don't even care to actually go to the police station to go and lay a complaint against somebody, because most of the time their cases either just get thrown out of court or there's no conviction and they lose faith in the system. And I think that is exactly what has happened.
You know, when you're talking about also the crimes of rape and sexual assault as well, and talking about those convictions as well that are quite minimal, I think to take it an extra layer as well, we could even add just how victims and survivors of sexual offences are treated by the criminal justice system, for a case to go through the system, and maybe there needing to be an overhaul, not only to getting more of those convictions, but how we actually get there. Much of the criticism has been that for victims facing these kinds of cases in our courts of law, they face, you know, re-victimization as well. So an overhaul of how we actually treat specifically GBV.
Definitely, I agree with you. You know, I have so many survivors that contact me that go through the system and they lose faith. And I understand why they lose faith. I mean, you go to a police station to report a crime of sexual abuse or of GBV, and then you are ridiculed. And most often than not, it's actually the female police officers that are rude to these victims. Then you have to sit for months through court cases. You have to look your perpetrator in the eye the whole time. Often protection orders are not served. Most of the time, protection orders are not served. So there's actually no outcome for these people. And I mean, I feel so sorry for victims of gender-based violence, because it's just a system that's perpetuating. Nothing is getting better. Every year we have 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and we have these beautiful speeches, and everybody goes to parliament, and South Africa does something, and the police have an action for 16 days. But at the end of the day, the rape just increases. I mean, 5 women are raped every hour in our country. That is a clear indication that the processes that we have in place to combat GBV is not worth it. It's not happening. People have lost faith, and it's not a viable situation that we're in at the moment.
And while you're saying that the process is clearly not viable and working effectively, the acting police minister said that the police will intensify efforts to deal with GBV crimes. Now, for any ordinary South African listening to the stats of sexual assaults that take place in this country, and then listening to the acting police commissioner saying that they will intensify efforts, is this something that people can take refuge in, or it's something that we've heard before?
Well, I hope that it is something that we can take refuge in. But from what my experience is, I've heard this story before. The previous police minister, or I don't know if he's still the Minister of Police, Minister Mkhunu, he also said we were going to put social workers into every police station. And that was a year and a half ago, and nothing has happened since then. We've heard that the GBV Council was supposed to be established. Only recently were board members put into place. So how serious are we? The forensic services in our country have a backlog of 140,000 samples. So how serious are we about combating crime when we're sitting with forensic labs that are not producing the work that they should be producing, because those perpetrators are just out on the street? How do we not know that more is going on? And without people actually going to report the cases, and as I've said to you, rape is one of the most underreported statistics that there is in our country. We actually do not know what's going on. And until we fix the system, people will continue not going to report crimes.
Yeah. Moving to another aspect of the crime stats as well that is quite a challenge is organized crime. Now, when we look at the crime stats as well, it can't adequately deal with organized crime. It's not quite often that, you know, for these kinds of crimes that people just go into an ordinary police station to lay these complaints. They're far more complex. So what picture does it paint for us if we don't really holistically know what our organized crime stats truly look like?
Well, I mean, that is a massive concern. We know that organized crime has taken over South Africa. You just have to look at the Madlanga Commission. You have to look at what's happening in the ad hoc committee, and you can see that our country is overrun with organized crime. And I welcome the fact that the president and the minister said that they are now going to call in SARS to assist them to make sure that we track money more adequately and to see where funds are going. But it's a very complex situation, and our police system as it is at this stage, and the DPCI included, the Hawks, they're not fully equipped to investigate these crimes. At this stage, the DPCI has a vacancy rate of 56%. And we have to ensure that we employ people into these vacancies, and that we have the correct people in places to actually investigate these crimes. And that's the most important thing, is that we actually have capable people in places to investigate crimes, because without that and without the proper systems, we're actually going nowhere.
Absolutely. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it. That was Lisa Schickerling, who is a member of the Portfolio Committee on Police.